letter B. Systematize top-down service. Now, this takes a little explanation. Systematize top-down service. Random acts of kindness are not enough in leadership. Okay? Me bringing the paper cutter, that was a random act of kindness. That was not a system. What we've got to do is we've got to learn to systematize top-down service. That as you think about the people that positionally in the staff or as a volunteer serve you naturally because of where they are in the organization chart, you have got to systematize top-down service to them. Because if you don't systematize it, if you don't build it into the rhythm of your organization, you'll never serve them. Every once in a while, you'll remember a birthday. That's not a system. So you've got to ask the question, well, how can I build into the rhythm of our organization a way to serve people because it's mutual submission even though there's point leadership? I wrote a couple of things down here. One of the things that we do is we do a 3-month and a 12-month evaluation of our organization by new employees, which means when I meet with new employees, I say, you're going to get an email from my office on 3 months and 12 months. You don't have to remember this. We're just going to send it out. This is your opportunity to evaluate this organization. This is not an employee evaluation. This is you answering questions to tell us what kind of organization we are. You have fresh eyes. I've worked here for 13 years. I don't even see our problems anymore. I live in the woods. I don't see any trees. You're brand new. Things that don't bother me, that should bother me, they're going to bother you. You've only been here 3 months. You've only been here a year. So we send them this email, and they evaluate the organization. And they answer questions like, do you see anything that we're doing that's off mission? Do you see anything that we're doing off purpose? Is there anything that frustrates you? Do you have a best friend at work? Do you have all the things you need to do? Are you doing what you were hired to do? How long did it take you? We have all these questions, and they can say anything they want to evaluate the organization. Now, why is that important? Because here's what I'm saying. I'm saying, you know what? I want to create a great organization for you to work in. And if we're doing something that makes your job unnecessarily difficult, and if we're creating an organization that makes it difficult for you to enjoy your job, I want you to tell me, and I'm going to fix it because I'm going to serve you. And you may not be a direct report from me. You may be at a different campus. But I want that information, and it's a system. Every 3 months, every year, every 3 months, at the 1-year mark for all of our new employees. It's just one example of how to systematize mutual submission. I'm here for you. You're not just here for me. The other thing that we do is, and some of you do this in a different way, and probably maybe even better, we have a system of staff coaches. And when I say to all our employees, look, I don't want you to be frustrated. I've worked on 2 church staffs where I was frustrated all the time. I go home and tell the same story to Sandra 8 times. She finally look at me and go, honey, I can't help you. You already told me, I know. And then she said, you heard, I know. You're telling the same stories. That might be insanity. I can't fix it. So I bring all this frustration home. And so, you know what? And some of you have worked in systems like that. Listen, as the leader, address that. Let me ask you, do you want the people who work for you going home every day frustrated about the organization you've created? The answer is no. Then come up with a way in your system to address that. That's a way to serve the people. That's mutual submission. Listen, you don't have to do that. They do have to serve you by working for you. So you've got to be intentional and come up with ways. So what we did is I picked, about a half dozen, or now it's about a dozen, of the most mature people on our staff. And I said, you're going to be a staff coach. We did very little training, and essentially here's what a staff coach does. If you work for our organization and you're frustrated about anything, it could be the person that works for you. It could be you're frustrated with your boss. You're frustrated because you think somebody's stealing from the company. You're frustrated because you're not doing what you were hired to do. It's just any frustration that you find yourself going home every day going, just here's what you do. You go talk to a staff coach. The conversation is going to be confidential. They're at all 3 campuses. They're every single department. You can just go sit down with a staff coach and you can just vent. Because I want you to vent to somebody that can help you, not your husband, your wife, kick the dog, or tell somebody in the next cube over and, start a, dissension in the organization. You go to a staff coach, and the coach is going to help you. They're going to walk you through conflict resolution. You're going to come to another staff coach and say, hey, let's fix this. They're going to coach you about how to talk to somebody. They may say, you know what, here's some information you didn't have, and you'll go, oh, I didn't know that. Well, now problem solved. So why? Because I don't want people that work for me frustrated about things we can fix organizationally. You need a way in the system of your organization to address frustrations. Imagine how much happier you would have been at your previous church if there had been a legitimate way to vent your frustration instead of just gossiping or going home or finally just getting fed up and quit. See, that's a way, systematically, we've created a way for mutual submission. Again, that may not be something you need to do, but as a leader, I'm telling you as a leader, you got to be intentional and you've got to systematize it. Random acts of kindness, random acts of service are great, but they're just not enough. Letter C. In response to your staff's key objectives, get in the habit of asking, how can I help? That's the blank there, how can I help? In response to your staff's key objectives, ask, how can I help? And this is something that does not come naturally for me, I got to tell you. That's why I had to systematize it. So earlier this year, I have three direct reports, including my assistant. And then we have a leadership team made up of 10 people. Now, these 10 people are not all direct reports to me, but they play key roles in this organization. So they come in, and we do this little deal where each of them presents their objectives and their goals for the year. And here's what I'm going to do. Here's what we're going to do in student ministry. Here's what we're trying to do in children's ministry. We're developing new curriculum. Here's what we're doing overseas, and we want to create a conference overseas. And so they explain all these objectives. And then I ask them this question. I say, now I want you to go back, and I want you to write down one critical thing I could do to help you accomplish your objectives. Now, you can't give me 5, but what in the area of a Global X, our overseas mission, come back and tell me, Andy, if I could have this much of your time and this much of your focus, here's what you could do to really help me move the ball down the court. In student ministry, Andy, if you would come in and help us reevaluate curriculum because you're great at helping us find bottom lines, if you'd give us this much time to help us rethink the bottom lines for this year's student curriculum, that would be great. So I ask each one of my direct reports, and even in this broader circle of leadership team, I'm asking you, you work for me, but I'm asking you, how can I help? You know what my gifts and skills are. How can I drop into your area and work for you for a day or an afternoon or for a week? What can I do to help? See, I don't have to do that. But you know what? It's mutual submission. I'm the boss. But I'm to submit myself to the people on this staff. And if I don't do that, I'm going to lead like the Gentiles. And the point isn't to flatten the organization. The point is to create mutual submission within the organization. So my assignments this year, I'm working with partnerships. I'm going to help raise some money for some of our partnerships. For our groups, for our groups division, Bill says, you know what, I need 2 sermons a year out of you. I need 2 group sermons a year. That's what you want to serve me. I need 2 times a year when you stand up on the platform and you preach your heart out about groups. Okay, if that's what I can do to serve you, that's what I'll do. So in response to your staff's key objectives, in other words, instead of just getting their goals and outlines and going, all right, I'm going to hold you accountable. I mean, you got to do that too. You got to do that too. But you ask, okay, those are great goals. What can I do to help you? Letter D. Create and maintain a sustainable pace. Create and maintain a sustainable pace. Let me tell you why this is very important. I think this is in your notes, actually. Without margin, that's the blank there. Without margin, there's no room to serve. Without margin, you don't have time to serve each other. In my notes, I wrote this. When I'm under pressure, I become very self-centered. Don't you? When I'm under pressure, it's like, no. When I'm under pressure, I can't serve you. I'm under pressure. If your organization runs at a pace that's not sustainable, you can talk about this all day long. Nobody's going to do it. Because a lack of margin means a lack of mutual submission. Because when I'm in pain, I'm very self-centered. And when I'm stressed out, I'm very self-centered. And when I've got too much to do, I'm very self-centered. So don't come here and talk to me about serving you. I'm busy. So listen. So as the boss, one of the best things I can do for our organization, one of the best, points of service that I can give to our organization is to make sure that we're running at a sustainable pace. Because if I don't help our organization create a sustainable pace, we're not going to serve each other because we're just going to be too busy. In fact, interesting illustration. In 2007, last year, we didn't have a drive conference. And here's why. Because in 2007, we were scheduled to open a brand new building in Buckhead and our brand new campus at Brownsbridge. And we're looking at 2007, this is in 2006, and we're looking at opening these 2 campuses and then doing the Drive conference. And I said, you know what? We're not doing Drive. The first reaction of some of our hard-charging, type A personality staff, who I just love because, oh my gosh, did they get the work done, was, but wait, we've done it 2 years. If we stop, we're going to lose momentum. If we stop and all their concerns were exactly right. But as I stood back and looked at the whole pace of the staff, I said, you know what? If we open 2 campuses and do drive, we're gonna kill our staff. I don't care if we lose momentum. We'll just start over. We're not doing drive in 2007. And everybody went, wait, that's, all right, thanks, Mom. No, I'm just kidding. It's not my mom. That's probably Kendra back there. No, I'm just kidding, Kendra. You know what? Listen, and it's not like I had to talk everybody into it. I'm probably taking too much credit for this decision. This was a discussion. But when we as a staff team decided not to do drive, I could almost hear a sigh of relief throughout the organization. Oh. Now, I could have got up and said, do you love Jesus? I love Jesus. Doesn't the church in America need better leadership? You know, I mean, I could have given a pep talk, and by God's grace, God's going to give us the strength to open 2 campuses and do drive, and you're the best staff in the world. Everybody going like this, and then going, oh, well, that's easy for him to say. He's probably just going to go drive home and, you know, go swimming, and we're all going to be out here, you know, going, he didn't do any of the work anyway. We never even see him, you know. Just kidding. We don't. That's not true. So, we canned the conference for a year. Why? Because I'm telling you, this is a marathon. This is a marathon. I want people to have margin, because if they have margin, guess what they do? They serve one another. And as the leader, the way to serve your organization is to make sure you have a sustainable pace. The second bullet point there is this: without margin, we seek our kingdom first. Without margin, we seek first, rather, our kingdom. That's because under pressure, we tend to get very self-centered. By the way, my clock has disappeared, which is a really dangerous thing, so it needs to reappear, or we'll be here throughout the evening. Okay, just kidding. Letter E. Celebrate and reward greatness when you see it. Celebrate and reward greatness when you see it. Celebrate and reward greatness when you see it. And by greatness, what am I talking about? I'm talking about greatness the way Jesus defined it, which means when you see amongst your staff mutual submission, when you see people from Department A serving Department B, don't go, boy, that was really neat. You got to, stop the presses and let's draw attention to that. When you catch people mutually submitting to one another, you've got to stop and celebrate that. And here's why, and I wrote this in your notes, I believe. This is like one of the most important leadership phrases in the world. I got this from the Leadership Challenge. It was written in 1987, best leadership book I ever read, maybe because it was the first one. And the author has this statement in there, and it's simply this: what's rewarded is repeated. What's rewarded is repeated. What's rewarded is repeated. So if you want mutual submission repeated in your organization, what do you have to do? You've got to reward it, not just go, oh, neat email, trash, got to get going, you know. Oh, that's a cool story. No. And so in our staff meetings, and you've probably heard me say this before, on Monday mornings, we have, about 150, or I don't know how many, we have like 80 or 90 from this campus. Then once a month, we have all the campuses together. And I start our Monday morning meetings by saying this: hey, what happened yesterday? That would be Sunday. Or what happened this past week that made you feel like you were successful in what you came here to do? What happened last week that made you feel like you were successful leading people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ? And then everybody stands up and tells stories. And what's so cool, about half the stories are about how one department served the other department. I just want to say thank you for facilities, because we changed our deal at the last minute. Facilities came in and they served us. Thank you, facilities. I just want to thank groups because they helped us transition the deal. I just want to thank Donnie because he wrote a sketch. And in other words, and you know what they're doing? They're thanking each other, and that is a celebration of mutual submission, that we're all not working in our little silos and we're in music. We don't do children, we're in music, or, however it works in your church, and that's our PA system. You didn't sign it out and get it, and last time you borrowed it, I lived in that world, where this is our equipment, and you own everything 4 times because nobody wants to share. Jesus is going, well, that's neato, So anyway, the point being, you've got to create the opportunity for mutual submission. Okay, you got the point. And what's rewarded is repeated. The other thing that we do that is kind of cool is about once every 6 weeks or so, when our staff comes into our staff meeting, we have a pile of stationery and envelopes on their tables. And we begin the staff meeting by everybody writing a thank you note to someone. We're just going to take 10 minutes. It could be somebody on staff. It could be a key volunteer. I want you to think about somebody who served you yesterday, Sunday. And right now, I want you to write them a thank you note. See, that's not random. That's building it into the rhythm and the system of your organization. We're all going to write a thank you note together. So everybody's going, okay, yeah, I'm busy. I got to go. Yeah, but who served me yesterday? I'm going to write thank you notes. Suddenly, sometimes they show up on people's desks. Sometimes it gets mailed outside the organization. But let's reward Submission. Let's serve one another. Let's reward greatness, because when you serve and you don't have to, that's great. And when you're in charge and you submit yourself by serving people you don't have to serve, that's greatness. And if you don't reward it, it won't be.